Hi, I'm Bill Hodges, and this is Spotlight on Government. Hold on to your checkbooks. Get out your pads of paper. We're going to give you some great ideas today on money management. No, I'm not talking about the stock market and things like that. But maybe it's something you want to bring your kids and have them sit down and listen to. Maybe if you have a friend that needs help, this would be a good program for him or her to watch. I have Lisa Leslie with me today. Lisa, it's great to have you here from the Extension Service here in Hillsborough County.
Hi, Bill. It's really nice to be here.
I understand one of the major areas that you cover is working on programs to help people better handle their money. But there are many other programs down there too, are there not?
There are. I work in the Family Consumer Sciences area, which includes nutrition, parenting, stress management, and personal finance. In addition, we have programs in horticulture. Our Master Gardener program is really popular and all in the libraries. You're laughing, have you ever been to a Master Gardener program?
And they're really dedicated people. Many of them speaking well over what I can understand, but I really like the program. And Mary Keith, of course, has been here talking about nutrition.
Yeah, Dr. Mary Keith, she's a wonderful, wonderful resource.
I just love her to death. She brings it right down to where it's really easy to understand.
She does. She writes a lot of columns. She writes columns for one of the local papers. She's great to work with, and I learn a lot by working with her. In addition to the 4-H and the nutrition programs, we also have the traditional agriculture programs because, as you probably know, agriculture is a big industry in Hillsborough County. So we have folks who work with the growers, help them work out problems with diseases and things like that. We also have a forestry agent who has helped neighborhoods plan for their tree preservation and the long-term planning for trees and things like that. And we have the 4-H, as I said, which is a great program for children. So we have all kinds of programs. It's just a really wonderful resource. It's a part of the University of Florida, but we're also a part of county government. So it brings together the resources of both to offer programs in the community.
Our current agricultural commissioner, Adam Putnam, has been on the show. And he's also a big supporter of the show, sending people in whenever we need someone. We did a program not long ago on bees as a part of agriculture and the problems with colony collapse and things of that nature. Goodness, people watched it all over the world.
Yeah, and we have beekeepers that come in and to our office and have meetings there, yeah. And I know Adam Putnam was a 4-H'er. So
yes,
he's a big,
he was.
and see
I
what
think he
happens.
still is.
Oh, yeah. I would say. So that, and we were talking earlier about speech and how youth in 4-H will learn through speech competitions and different kind of competitions. So I think Adam Putnam is a good example of how 4-H can really help someone become a leader in the community.
It's the funniest thing, when Adam first went up to the legislature in Washington, he came on the show and I asked him what his biggest problem was there, and he said, I'd be taking out influential guests and we'd go out for dinner and everybody'd order their drinks and they'd card me.
He went really, really young. I know he came and talked to a group at the office, and when he went up there, I don't think he was able to rent a car.
It was funny, but he really believes in the agricultural part. And of course, I believe strongly in the area that Mary does with the nutrition. But you have an area that I think is very, very important. If we ever really going to get a traction on helping people to take control of their lives, they have to understand their finances.
That's true, because your finances cover all aspects of your life, and it's about the short term and having a long-term plan. And it's just the way it is. How you manage your money is going to help determine your lifestyle, where you live, where you can go on vacation, just all kinds of things, how you manage your money. And I say how you manage your money because it's not only income. Folks will think, well, if I have more money, I'll be okay. But as you well know, it's how you manage it. We hear about folks who, they have a lot of money, but still, if you don't manage it properly, it can be problematic.
Yeah, the funny thing there, or the reason I laughed, is that I remember I got this first really good job with National Cash Register Company. I was making $125 a week. That was 25 more than I'd made in my other job. And I thought, I'm just rolling in money now. I've got all this money. And all of a sudden, it was gone. And I got a $5 raise. I said, well, there I am. I've got it again. $5 more a week. I've got it. And after about 3-4 months, I was back to the same place, running short every week. And I had a boss who told me, Bill, he said, you'll never have enough because every time you make changes in what you purchase. And it can be as simple as taking that old scratchy toilet paper and getting the soft toilet paper and paying 10 cents more a roll. So you don't notice over the month where that 10 cents went, but it goes, isn't that right?
It can really add up because you can spend a little bit. If you spend $3 extra a day, that's $90 a month. At the end of the year, that's over $1,000 that you spend on just this and that. So, and the idea is to think when you get a raise, what we recommend is put a little bit of it, a percentage of that raise, put it in the bank, put it toward your retirement plan, put it toward your child's college education. Just don't, like you said, blow it on the upscale, because after 10 years later, you're going to be like,
the new phone, they gotta have the new phone.
The new phone or the new, the upgraded toilet paper, because 10 years from now, think about where do you want to be. And it's hard for folks, but the idea is to think about how am I using my money today and where am I going to be tomorrow. So if you get a raise, think about banking a part of it. Reward yourself a little bit, but think about putting about a little bit away. And you'd be amazed how quick 5-10 years go, and reaching goals is a really nice thing.
Isn't there a rule of 72 or something?
Well, the rule of 72, how much do you divide 72 by the interest rate to tell how soon your money will double if you want to earn an interest rate. So 72 divided by 9, I think that's 8. So in 8 years, your money would double. At 9% interest rate. And there's a lot of different rules.
Of course, today getting 2% interest is a really good thing.
Well,
so you've got a long way to go, right?
And that's a good point, because a lot of folks, put money in a savings account, and that's absolutely the best place for your emergency fund. But for our long-term goals, that's not the place. We want to look for investments that are going to pay a higher interest rate, because people think, well, there's risk there. But if you don't take some risk, then inflation is going to eat up your money, and so that's not a good thing. So a great thing for people to do is think about, do they have a retirement plan in the workplace? If they don't have a retirement plan, do they have an individual retirement account that they can open up?
That's an excellent suggestion. I told my daughter to max out whatever the company would let her pay into her account. And she did that for a number of years, and now it's paying off for her.
Yeah, and like you say, the sooner you do it, because if you save from, early years, that in compounding, and then you can even just stop, and you'll have more money than somebody who waits. Not that I'm advocating stopping, but yeah, the sooner you start, and as you say, if the company offers match, where they match a certain percentage of money that you put in, then definitely don't leave that money on the table, because not taking care of match is really leaving money on the table.
The middle class always was able to say, well, if I buy property, that's going to be a great investment for me, because over a period of years, I get to live in it, and someday it's going to be worth a lot more than I paid for it. And we're finding that's not necessarily true in today's economy.
Well, and that goes to how you think of your house. Some folks would say that's a use asset. You're getting equity in your home. The values for a while were increasing. So that's one asset where you can build some equity in a home as long as
I'd never heard it called that.
Yeah,
a use asset.
Well, folks were starting to look, especially remember when property values were just going through the roof. People were starting to looking at it as an investment, like you said. But typically, if you look back, property values don't usually rise as quickly. Right. And there's some element of risk. There's costs that go with that, with any investment. But it's good to have a diverse mix of assets. So again, if you have, like your daughter has a retirement plan, if you buy a home and you build equity in that home, and it just depends with home ownership. If you're moving around a lot, home ownership might not be the thing, but if you think you're going to stay in an area, if there's potential for values increasing. But a lot of folks maybe think of that as something to build equity and some stability, but hopefully it's not the only, only asset. And it's hard though. The paycheck only stretches so far. But retirement plans are a good thing.
We live out in Sun City Center, and there's a lot of retirees. And many of them didn't expect to live near as long as they have. It's just that simple. And so the money started getting tight, but they rode the curve on this last situation with housing. And actually, on paper, they lost a lot, but now it's all building back. So,
and that's a good point, because on paper they might have lost, but they didn't suffer a realized loss, which the IRS will tell you there's a difference. But they didn't suffer a realized loss until you sell, and if you sell low. But as you said, they may come back, and that happened as well with people in their retirement plans or in other plans. If they had enough of a liquid fund, enough in savings, enough to get them by, and they didn't have to sell when things were low, they did much better because lots of stuff came back.
we didn't touch it. We just let it ride down, it rode right back up again.
Yeah.
So,
If you look back in the past, even during the Great Depression, things came back. A lot of things came back, and usually a lot of businesses came back and didn't suffer, the whole depression.
what do we do with young people? Where do we start? Where should I, if I were a parent watching this, what should I do to start?
Well, that's a good question. It's good to talk to children, and we have some curriculum on this, extension curriculums, talking with children about money. But it's a good thing to start with a child when they're young, as age appropriate. Start talking with them about what money is, what a dollar is, what it looks like, how much it can buy. Explain to them the debit cards are not just magic cards with money spits out.
A lot of people, even adults, think they're still magic.
They're magic, or a credit card. And then as children get older, if they have a little bit of money, allowance money that they can use and make mistakes with, and learn that you save to buy things, you put a little bit away. So talk with them about the choices that they'll make with money, about the value of saving money. That can be really great. And as I said, extension, we do have money smart, raising us money smart children, and other curriculum to teach parents how to talk to their children.
So how do they get involved if they want to do one of the extensions? Do you go out to the schools, or do people come down to your offices, or
all of the above?
Do clubs, groups, organizations?
Well, and we have 4-H has clubs for children in their neighborhoods. They have 4-H leaders, and they meet generally different clubs.
I think of 4-H being an agricultural type program, but there's much more to it than that, is there not?
There is. They have a new, well, it's not really that new. It's been around for a couple of years, but a new program with robotics, where they teach kids about robotics.
Really?
Yep.
I have a grandson that's deeply involved in that, going on to college in robotics.
Yeah. So, and that he's probably a little too old. They end at 18, but yeah, we've got programs like that. And in regards to your question of where do we can come to your community location. We have programs in our office. We have programs in the school. So it's not just that our office is out in Steffner.
How do they find that?
Well, if you go to hillsborough.ifas.ufl.edu, we're on the web. We've got a website there. All our contacts are listed, and you can contact me, or you can contact somebody in the particular area, because again, we're available to go. We're a county-wide agency, and we go where the people are when
So you'll actually come out, if I'm a Sertoma or Rotary or any one of those clubs, groups, organizations, you'll come out and put a program on if we need you?
Sure, we sure will. We will. And I've done a lot of, I know our master gardeners do a lot of that sort of thing. I've done a lot of things in the workplace as well. Companies will want to do lunch and learns for their employees, so we can go into the workplace and do a program, lunch and learn. And the cool thing is there's no cost, and it's non-commercial. So people are getting good information at, and no extra charges.
That would seem to me to be very good for a company, because if a company is out there, you owners of companies or managers, if your people are handling their money well, they're going to be a lot more comfortable at work.
Yeah, they're a lot less distracted, a lot more comfortable knowing they manage what they make very well. So yeah, and there's been some research to show that it helps productivity for the employee.
We're seeing some downsizing. Now, the companies use the term right-sizing, but I'm not sure that's right.
It doesn't feel right to the people
No, it doesn't
affected.
feel right to me. But a lot of people are not making what they did. And if they do get downsized, they go back to work, they're not making the same kind of money. How can they transition? What can they find to help them transition from what was my standard of living to what I'm going to have to accept now if I want to see the future?
And that's hard. It's very difficult, but the idea is to accept the reality of the new situation, and then to sit down and think about what's really important, and then to build a new budget based on the new reality, and just say, this is the new reality, and what can I cut out? And a lot of us, myself included, probably have some things that I could probably live without, that really overall quality of life won't deteriorate. So that's the place to start. And then sometimes there are harder decisions that have to be made, but making those decisions and instead of ignoring can really make things better in the long run, although it's hard first step.
I had a friend who faced this situation, and the first thing he and his wife did was sit down and cut up a bunch of credit cards. Yeah. Called in, said, we don't want these credit cards anymore, cancel them, got rid of them. And it turned out that in canceling those credit cards, it hurt his credit score. What goes on with it? I would think if I got rid of a lot of my debt that I wouldn't have to worry. And that's kind of a two-part question about debt. How do I get rid of debt? So let's start with cutting up credit cards, and second, how do I get rid of debt?
Well, a good point. And if you're in an economic tough situation, good thing, stop using the credit cards. But you don't want to cancel them until you've zeroed out the balance. And that because your credit, it depends on two things: your bill paying history, do you pay your stuff on time, and your debt utilization. And debt utilization refers to, you hear the term maxed out. So if somebody has a $1,000 limit on a credit card and they've spent up to $900 on it, they're maxed out. You don't want to use more than 30%. So if somebody has a $1,000 balance on a credit card, or $900 on $1,000, stop using it, absolutely. But don't cancel it until you have zeroed out, you've paid it off, and then cancel it.
But even when you do cancel it and it's zero, doesn't that affect your credit?
It's not, it depends.
There's something in there about available credit?
Well, that's what I mean with available credit. So if you want to never use more than 30% of the available credit card balances you have to you. So if you have 3 credit cards, we'll just make your math easy, 3 credit cards.
And you cancel one of them, even though you've paid it off and it's zero, that cuts down the credit you have available to you, and you get nailed for that.
Right. So my answer. Thank you, Bill. Because my answer was incomplete. So you want to look at your overall utilization, and when it's comfortably below, I would say 25%, then you can start cutting credit cards. But you don't want your So if you have 3 credit cards, $5,000 each, $15,000, but you still have $12,000 on the other 2, you might want to wait until you've paid those in full. And that goes for monthly. Monthly, even if you pay your credit cards in full every month, you want to use more than 30% of the credit available to you. And I know that's a big one that people don't understand. So never use more than 30%. So your friend had the best intentions. Let's not get into more debt. Let's stop using, but the idea is hold on to them, put them in the freezer, even chop them up and put the information where to send them, but don't until your debt levels are low, and the monthly debt levels are, even what you use monthly, is low.
Okay, if I'm back to work. I got myself in a little bit of a jam. I'm back to work now, and I've got some bills to pay. How do I prioritize those bills? Is it better to send each of them $10? Or are there some that are meaner than others?
Well, first of all, you want to take care of the necessities, because the roof over the head, electricity, power and light, food, but food as an essential, not food as it's upscale, just a necessity. So make sure you can do those. The next thing, so once you've taken care of those, make sure you meet legal obligations you may have and child support, student loans, things like that. If you need to contact student loans, try to work out a plan. They have lots of different ways they can work out a plan with you. And then the next thing, once you've got the absolute necessities, try to work on the ones that have the high interest or ones, and if you can try to keep them out of collections. That's a good thing, because once it goes to collections, then there's different, that hurts your credit, and then you have to come up with a plan B to work on those.
What about collections? Let's talk a little bit about that. If somebody calls and said, you owe us money and we're going after you, we're going to file for this or that or another thing, what are your rights?
Well, first of all, they have to be correct. they can't lie. I've had people tell me they were afraid they were going to go to jail. They can't threaten you like that. You can't
No
go to jail.
debtor's prison.
There's no debtor's prison. No, those were done away with a while ago. If you owe the debt, you can ask them for proof that the debt is you owe the debt.
Okay.
And then you want to be careful because there are some debts that will stay with you like for a long time, like student loans or child support. But other debts, and these are legal questions, so I'm not going to give specifics, but there are statutory limitations on how long those can be collected for. And there's a federal law that some debts will leave your credit report after 7 years. But if you have debts that you owe, you may think about what debts are the priorities, what are my goals? Because, for instance, if somebody wants to own a home, it probably isn't good for collectors to be coming after them. Right. So they may think about ways, do I have some money where I could negotiate and try to settle this debt? People should be aware, though, that when they settle a debt and some of it is forgiven, it's considered income by the IRS, and they will be sent a 1099. So
really?
So if I owed $15,000 in credit card debt and they said, oh, Lisa, just give us $5,000, and I have $10,000 of it settled, I'll get an income statement for $10,000 worth of income that I have never paid taxes on, so that can be a surprise to folks. So
it'd be a shock to me. I don't expect to find myself in that position, but still.
Yeah, and so it is, you have to think about in regards to how you're going to handle your debts. And sometimes, advice of an attorney may be a good idea. Bay Area Legal Services offers services to folks who meet certain income and other eligibility requirements. And be careful. If it sounds too good to be true, it is. There's no magic wand. If somebody tells you, don't worry, we'll wipe out your debts and there'll be no problems, there are going to be consequences.
What about debt consolidation outfits? I see those, some of them even are religious in nature.
And debt consolidation is not where you're going to settle for less. I'll just talk about through a credit counseling agency. Okay. I'll talk about the kind I know of. For instance, with a credit counseling agency, you can have debt management plans. So you might have a debt management plan. Now the goal with those is to pay the debts, the principal of the debt in full, but they'll help you work with the companies to maybe get some fees waived and things like that. Okay. And then through the debt management plan, through a counseling company, you pay them and they pay your debtors. They be careful, though. There are a lot of folks, if you contact a counseling agency, they should spend some time on the phone with you. They should understand, can these debts be paid off in 5 years? Reasonable, can you handle this? And if they don't spend that time with you and get to know you, be careful. Debt consolidation, you can get a debt consolidation loan sometimes through a private company or something like that. But beware that if your credit score is low, which, as we discussed, if you have a lot of debt, your credit score is going to be low. The interest rate on that is likely to be substantial. So while that may be a short-term solution because maybe you're paying a little more every month, in the end run, you're going to pay more as a whole. But for some folks who need to meet ends meet, debt consolidation may be a situation to make ends meet, but they need to be aware that they may pay more in the overall situation.
Something I found out not very long ago, I guess I should have known it a long time, or it was there and I really didn't pay attention to it, is that your credit score is involved in half of what you do in life.
Yeah.
Your insurance payments, car payments, whatever, everything hinges around that credit score, correct?
Yeah, well, some things in life, like hopefully your kids still love you and stuff like that, but a lot of things affect...
You don't give them an allowance.
But your credit history, I'll say your credit history, because it isn't the same score that if I went to pull my score, but if I go for insurance, they will look at my credit history, my homeowners, my auto insurance, and that may affect the rate I pay. For certain jobs, not all jobs, but certain employers may pull, again, your credit history, and if they say, well, Lisa, goodness gracious, you've got all these things. Maybe, for instance, if you worked at a place where you're handling sensitive information or handling money, your credit history could affect your ability to get a job. So it's not only like you said, it's not only how much you pay for interest on a loan or even whether you can get a loan. It can even affect whether you can rent an apartment and things like that.
And that's the credit score.
Well, I would say
Are
the
you
credit
calling
history.
credit history
There's two.
versus-
Because there's two
Are you
different.
separating
Yeah,
the
I
two?
am separating them because there's two different things. There's a credit history, which is how you've used your history of paying bills, being in debt. So that's your history, and then your score is a number based on that history. And there are three different credit reporting agencies: Equifax, TransUnion, and Experian, and each of them have different scoring models. Lenders may have a different scoring model. FICO is another scoring model. So the model that somebody may use to decide your auto insurance rate may different. The idea, and people get so caught up in what's my score? Take a look at your credit history and you'll have a good idea, is my score low, medium, or high? So that's why I made the distinction.
Some people don't want to use credit at all. They prefer to use cash. And I was among those people for a lot of years. If I couldn't afford it, if I couldn't pay for it, I didn't buy it. I learned that I had to have a certain amount of cash and a certain amount of credit, or I couldn't really get along in a society. Is that pretty much true, and where do you draw the line?
Yeah, and that's a good point, because for some folks, they should, if you can't handle it or have some issues, don't use it. But as you said, in this society, in this day and age, credit used wisely can make life much easier. And there's a difference between credit use and credit indebtedness. For instance, you can use a credit card, pay it off in full every month. Don't max it out. Use less than 30% of the limit.
I like using their money.
Yeah, you use their money. Use their money. In some cases, you can get free, and there's no, you get extra protections, but pay it off in full every month, or else it's going to become really expensive. So that's where you use it versus using it, like a hammer. A hammer you can use to build things, or you can use it to destroy things. So I would say I would agree with you that, if you use it wisely, you don't want, if you use it wisely, you build a history, then when you go for your first home loan, you've shown use, it can be really helpful.
Yeah, a lot of young people really don't have credit.
Yeah, and then when they go for their first home loan, it'll be at, if they can get a loan, it could be at, and they don't have a cosigner, it can be at high rates. So it's good to start slowly.
I have so many more questions. Finance is fascinating, and I think there's so much you could go on and on. I believe you've got much more to share, correct?
I've been doing this for 17 years.
I would love to have you back. Would you do that?
I'd love to be back, Bill. I appreciate your spreading the word about our services and everything.
I just think it's a wonderful thing. Ladies and gentlemen, it's very, very important, not only for yourself, but for your kids, to be able to have them handle credit wisely. Lisa, Leslie, thanks so much for coming from the Extension Service for us. I'm sure there are many groups that would like to have you out there as a speaker, and they'll be seeing the number for you, so you'll be getting those. I'm Bill Hodges. You're unique, you're special, and you're great. Tell yourself so often, because you are, And we'll see you on the next Spotlight on Government again. Lisa, thanks for sharing with us, and I got your promise to come back, right?
I'd love to.
Thank you.
Thank you.